Alright, so welcome back to Personalized Instructional Tutorials, and in this video I'm going to be explaining to you how to create a relatively simple targeted campaign that is going to show up to a certain segment that you define. And that segment, as you'll see shortly, can be defined in a variety of ways, but the key point is that it's a piece of content specifically made for that segment that Personalize will then show only to that segment. Right, so what you're seeing now is the Personalize interface, and we're on the screen that you'll go to if you click to create a new campaign. And there's also a dashboard, detailed statistics, and all sorts of tools in there. Of course, your various settings, which is where a lot of your integrations take place. But for the purposes of this introductory video, we're just going to cover how to create a basic campaign or a couple of basic campaigns. The way that you create campaigns in the system is through these various wizards that we have. Now these wizards were created to simplify the process and walk you step by step through creating various types of campaigns. So as you can see, we have the general targeting and personalization wizard, which I'll show you shortly, but we also have ones that are specifically for product recommendations, content recommendations, remarketing emails, A/B testing campaigns, and various other use cases. But what I want to show you right now is just a very general targeting campaign, which I think illustrates some of the most basic concepts of the system. Once you get into a targeting campaign, what you're presented with is basically a three-step process, and I like to think of this as an if-then statement. If the visitor is, and you lay down a set of rules, then show them XYZ content because they've been established as a part of this segment because they match the rules. And then lastly, you QA the process and make sure that the campaigns are behaving the way that you want them to before you actually publish them live. And then eventually, after they've been live, you review the performance. So in this first step, the if part of the statement, we establish a set of rules that define a segment that will see this particular content. And we have over 70 rules in Persononyze that can be used, so I can't cover them all in this video, but it is extremely comprehensive. Persononyze knows everything about your visitor just about that it is possible to know. This includes every behavior that they've displayed on the site, where they came from, their referral, the times that they've been on the site before, and when you factor in CRM data that you may have integrated into it, it becomes virtually limitless because you can use literally any CRM parameter or data point that you have on the visitor, which could be unlimited. So some of the key things for you to see in this introductory video are, for instance, types of visitors. So you can say, I want new visitors to see this content, or I want visitors who've had a certain number of sessions to see this content. You can also do, for instance, the visitors who are on the site during the work week, or only during the weekend, or only between a certain date range. And these are stacked on top of each other. So the more rules that you stack on top of each other, the more specific it gets. You can also target certain device types, certain areas. So you can target states, cities, countries, and you can add a list of countries, a list of cities, or you can exclude a certain list of cities. You can say if they've visited certain pages or only if they're on a certain page, show them this content. And you can use also session attributes. So Personalize can be set to track just about anything, including something like a cart value on an e-commerce site, for instance. So all you have to do is go in and create a new container and tell Personalize where it can find cart value at any given time. And then you could say, for instance, cart value is greater than 100, then show them this coupon, etc. As well, there are many others. For instance, if they arrived on a certain landing page, this is good for organic traffic. If they came in on a certain ad campaign, then you'll find that in the campaign part right here. We also have an IP database of companies and organizations, so you can target based on if they come from a particular company or organization in that database. We have also weather, because we know their location. We also know the weather at their location, so you can target if they're having a certain type of weather, if that makes sense for you. User profile data is where you'll find all the CRM characteristics or anything else that you might want to store permanently about a visitor, whereas session attributes are limited to the session. So yeah, you make a list of these rules. For instance, you could say if the full URL contains product interest X, so you can see that it's connected with a logical operator. So you can say they have to be, for instance, a new visitor and have arrived from a landing page with product interest X. And then you could add another one that says, or they visited page with product interest X at some point during their session, for instance. So really you can stack up these ands and these ors and these different rules as much as you want and create as simple or as complex a set of rules to identify a person as a part of this segment as you want. And then step 2 is the then part of the statement where you say if they match that segment, then I want to show them this different content. Now there are, again, as there are many rules, there are also many types of content tools that we have, ranging from a WYSIWYG editor, which is like a visual editor where you can just change the images, the text, the various aspects of a page visually with a point-and-click editor. We also have a banner pop-up manager where you can insert banners and pop-ups that will display dynamically depending on if they are part of the segment. That includes exit pop-ups and a variety of different behaviors for the pop-ups, etc. You can also insert countdowns, replace certain text everywhere it appears in the site. Really, you can include sliders, product recommendations. Really, there is a huge variety of tools included in here. So really, there's a variety of tools in here that it's more than I can cover in this video, but this will at least give you an idea of the basics. And we'll cover more and more as I make more of these videos. So just to start with, I'm going to show you, for instance, the WYSIWYG editor. So I'm going to click that. And here I'm just going to go to Personalized.com as an example. And after loading, now we're on Personalized.com, so you can see that we're in the WYSIWYG editor. This is sort of a copy of the website that we use to make the edits. And so the way that you do this is essentially it is very point and click, very intuitive. You simply click an area, and then a menu will appear, and you have a variety of options of how you can change this page. You can change the text, for instance. So I could, for instance, if I wanted to do this, I could say multi-channel instead to see if that performs better. I could change the color. I could change the color of this particular box, for instance. I could make it green, see how that performs, rather than red. I can make an entire area or div on the page disappear entirely. Do the same thing over here. I can move things around if I want to. So really, it's just almost unlimited what you can do with the WYSIWYG editor. You can change it around. You could really change the entire look and feel of the web page if you really wanted to dig in and do that, but most often what it's going to be is small changes like this that you might be A/B testing. So this is the WYSIWYG editor, something to know about. So when I click Done, as you'll see, it's going to create a single action. So each time you make one of these changes with these tools, it's called an action. So we're in a campaign, and within the campaign we have for a certain segment we have actions. So a certain segment, such as new visitors who are here from the USA between such and such times, whatever, are a part of a segment which then see a variety of actions which all represent little changes to the website or even emails and apps and things like that. So that's one change that you can have for them, but let's add another action here. So I want to show you also how to create a pop-up. So a simple pop-up, let's say an exit pop-up. Now you can always just input your own HTML for a pop-up or for any other piece of content. We have all of our own templates which are responsive by default, and you can completely edit and customize them as much as you like. Or you can create something from scratch if you're savvy in that way. But let's just say that we're going to start with a basic template here. So I'm going to do maybe this one. Okay, so as you can see in this particular pop-up, we have a few text boxes, a couple of buttons, a logo, a background image. All of this can be changed, obviously. It's all completely customizable, and the way that you do that is the editing menu over here, or you can actually go in and directly edit the HTML if you want to, but most people are not going to do that. Most people are going to go in and change the height and width and the colors and the text, and you can actually just directly click it to change the text as well. Really any way that you want to do it, and you can determine what links these buttons go to, etc., etc., etc. Again, everything is responsive by default. And so now, once we go to the next step, we are going to be determining how it's going to be displayed, which will determine whether it's a banner embedded into the page, in which case we would use a placeholder. There will be another video on how to do that later, but we also have text in the wiki about it. But in this case, we're going to do a pop-up because that's what we said our example would be. So, and it's going to be an exit pop-up. So we get to determine the location of the pop-up. I'm going to say front and center because you really want to get their attention if it's an exit pop-up. I'm also going to say something that draws their eyes to the pop-up even more will be a glass panel behind it. But there are many other options for the behavior of the pop-up, as you can see. And these are many display scenarios. So the one that we're going to choose for an exit pop-up is on predicted site leave intent. That's if their little cursor goes up here. Or, if it's a different type of pop-up, we could set it to go off after a timer or after they scroll to the bottom of the page or if they've been idle for a certain amount of time, etc., etc., etc. And then you're going to choose how you can limit the pop-up down here. Don't show if it was closed for X number of sessions. Don't show if it was clicked for X number of sessions. Don't show if it was shown for X number of sessions, etc., etc. So let's say I'm going to say if they closed it, then don't show it again for 3 sessions or 4 sessions. All right, good. Now I'm going to click Done. Okay, so now we have another action. So these two actions in the system will both be seen by the segment that we defined here, unless I turn on A/B testing mode, which is another thing that's useful to look at really quickly. So in A/B testing mode, you are able to drag and drop each of these pieces of content and put them into 2 groups, and then these groups will be divided according to some method of rotation between subsets of your segment that you've defined in this campaign. So it could be 50-50, it can be 60-40, 30-70, whatever you want it to be, but it will be within the segment that you've established in this campaign. We'll do a more detailed video on A/B testing later, but this just gives you the idea that A/B testing is built into the system. On each campaign, you can turn on or off A/B testing mode, and that is good to know. Next, we'll go on to the QA process. So I'm just going to speak about this briefly. Again, we'll have a more extensive video on this later. But essentially, the QA process occurs in one of 3 ways. You can either load the page that you have the campaigns active on in the simulator, and the simulator will show you in detail what the campaigns are doing and why you are or are not matching the rules and seeing the content that you've created. So that's a very useful thing. But you can also simply save in testing mode where it says publish for test up here. And that is also very useful because it will limit the campaign. It will make the campaign live only for the IP address of whoever created this campaign. So if you create the campaign and you save it for test, then you can actually just go to the website, assuming you have the Personalized tracking code on the website, and you will be able to see it live, but it will only be for your IP address. So the third way is that you can save for test, but instead of limiting it only to your IP, you can also create a testing link that will then allow you to send the link to your colleagues or your clients or whoever it is that you may be working with, and they can visit the link, and the link will have a special parameter on the end of it which will allow them to also see the campaign, but it still won't be live for all of your visitors. Now, once the campaign's been live, you can go and review statistics in detail, and we'll have a more extensive video on that later, but each campaign has its own unique statistics, and then there's also total site statistics, which are can be very insightful, can allow you to see how much revenue is coming from personalized campaigns, how the campaigns are performing in a variety of ways, and all of that good stuff. But this is just a very introductory, very general video, so I hope you've enjoyed it. And I hope that you'll enjoy checking out our system and take a look at our wiki. We hope to have everything in video at some point, but for now there is much more information in text form in the wiki, so have a look at that. I'll have a link in this video at the bottom. But yeah, thanks for watching, and keep your eyes peeled for further examples and instructional videos. Also, whatever use cases that you might like to see explained, whatever you would like to have a walkthrough of, please feel free to comment that into the comment section below this video, and then I will go through and walk you through that process, and then we can have it for the benefit of everyone else who wants to see that as well. All right, thank you much, and I'll see you next time.